Hello dear students, myself CMA Padmaja Buzruk. I will be discussing auditing. Go to study note number 7, provisions relating to audit under Companies Act. I will be discussing powers and duties of auditor, section 143. Powers and duties of auditors are given under section 143 of Companies Act 2013, subsection 1. Of section 143, every auditor of a company shall have right of access at all times to the books of accounts and vouchers of the company, whether kept at the registered office of the company or at any other place, and shall be entitled to require from officers of the company such information and explanation as he may consider necessary for the performance of his duties as auditor, and among other matters inquire into the following matters. So as per subsection 1, every auditor of company shall have right of access at all the times to the books of accounts, records, documents, vouchers, financial statements, etc., whether they are kept at the registered office or any other place, and he is also entitled to inquire from officers of the company information and explanation which he considers necessary for performance of his duties as auditor, and he inquires on various matters. Now we'll see one by one on what matters the auditor inquires. First, whether loans and advances made by company on the basis of security have been properly secured, and whether the terms on which they have been made, that is terms on which loans and advances have been made, are prejudicial to the interest of company and members. Prejudicial to the means harmful. Terms and conditions on which the loans and advances have been made, whether they are harmful to interest of company or members, that is, he is supposed to inquire. Next inquiry, whether transactions in the company which are represented merely by book entries means if there is no supporting voucher for these transactions, are prejudicial to the interest of the company, whether they are harmful to the company. Next inquiry, where the company not being an investment company or banking company, whether so much of assets of the company as consist of shares, debentures and other securities have been sold at a price less than at which they were purchased by the company. Next inquiry is for companies which are not investment company or neither banking company, and they have lot of assets consisting of shares, debentures and securities, and they have sold this at a loss. Then he will inquire. Next inquiry, whether loans and advances made by company have been shown as deposits. Next inquiry, whether personal expenses have been charged to revenue account. Next inquiry, where it is stated in books of and documents of the company that any shares have been allotted for cash, whether cash has actually been received in respect of such allotment, and if no cash has actually been so received, whether the position as stated in the accounts books and balance sheet is correct, regular and not misleading. So if it is stated in the books of accounts and documents that shares have been allotted for cash, he is supposed to inquire whether cash has actually been received on such allotment. If cash has not been received, that is, if there are calls in arrears, how it has been accounted for, whether it is shown correctly, and whether the balance sheet is correct and not misleading. Provided that the auditor of company which is a holding company shall also have the right of access to records of all its subsidiaries and associate companies insofar as it relates to consolidation of its financial statements with that of subsidiaries and associate companies. If the auditor is auditing the accounts of company which is holding company, then in that case he has right of access to the records of subsidiary as well as associate companies which relates to consolidation of financial statements. Now subsection 2 of section 143, auditor shall make report to the members of the company on the accounts examined by him and on every financial statement which are required by or under this act to be laid before the company in general meeting, and report shall, after taking into account the provisions of act, accounting and auditing standards, and matters which are required to be included in the audit report under the provisions of this act, or any rules made thereunder, or under any order made under subsection 11, and to the best of his information and knowledge, the said accounts, financial statements give true and fair view of state of company's affairs as at the end of its financial year, and profit or loss and cash flow for the year, and such other matters as prescribed in Rule 11 of Chapter 10 under the Act. So, in short, as per subsection 2 of Section 143, auditor shall make report to the members of the company on accounts examined by him and on financial statements as per provisions of the act, accounting and auditing standard, and he should make a report and should express his opinion on financial statements whether they give true and fair view, and he should also comment on the matters which are prescribed in rule 11 of chapter 10. Now for this, rule 11 of chapter 10 refer other matters to be included in auditor's report. So after completing all these subsections, you will get a note on matters to be included, other matters to be included in auditor's report. This is nothing but rule 11. First, we'll complete all the subsections of section 143. Now, subsection 3 of section 143, the auditor report shall also state. As per subsection 2, auditor is supposed to make a report to shareholders, and in subsection 3 what his report should include, that is given. Whether he has sought and obtained all information and explanation which to the best of his knowledge and belief were necessary for the purpose of his audit, and if not, the details whereof and effect of such information on the financial statements. So his report should state in as first information whether he has obtained all information and explanation which was necessary for his audit. Second, whether in his opinion proper books of accounts as required by law have been kept by the company so far as appears from his examination of books, and proper returns adequate for the purpose of his audit have been received from branches not visited by him. So second point to be included in his report is whether proper books of account as required by law have been kept by the company and proper returns have been received from branches not visited by him. Third point, whether the report on the accounts of any branch office of the company audited under subsection 8 by person other than company's auditor has been sent to him under the proviso to that subsection, and the manner in which he has dealt with it in preparing his report. So, as per third point, if the branch accounts have been audited by a person other than company auditor, whether he has received the report of branch accounts, report is audit report of branch account, and how he has dealt with in preparing his own report. Fourth point, whether the company's balance sheet and profit and loss account dealt with in the report are in agreement with books of accounts and return. Fourth point is whether balance sheet and profit and loss account are in agreement with books of accounts and return. Return means whatever returns he has received from the branches not visited by him. Fifth point, whether in his opinion the financial statements comply with accounting standards. Sixth point, the observations or comments of the auditors on financial transactions or matters which have any adverse effect on functioning of the company. So if any financial transactions have any adverse effect on functioning of the company, auditor is supposed to give his comment on the same. Next point, whether any director is disqualified from being appointed as auditor under subsection 2 of section 164, that is if the director is of unsound mind or if he is an undischarged insolvent, then he can be disqualified. Next point, any qualification, reservation or adverse remark relating to maintenance of accounts and other matters connected therewith. If he is having any reservation qualification regarding maintenance of accounts, then that he is supposed to mention in his audit report whether the company has adequate internal financial control with reference to financial statements in place and operating effectiveness of such controls, such other matters as may be prescribed. So these things, these points he should include in his report as per subsection 3. Now we'll go to subsection 4, where any of the matters required to be included in the audit report under this section is answered in negative or with qualification, the report shall state the reason therefore. So as per subsection 4, if any matter required to be included in audit report, that is which we have seen in subsection 3, if it is negative or with qualification, he is supposed to give reason therefore. So just an example I will give you in the earlier slide. Whether any director is disqualified, if it is answer is yes, the director is disqualified. Whether financial statements comply with accounting standard, no, financial statement do not comply with accounting standard. If in this case, if he has to give the reasons for the same. Subsection 5 of section 143. In case of government company, the auditor is supposed to submit the report, audit report to CAG of India also. And among other things include the directions, if any, issued by CAG of India, the action taken thereon and its impact on accounts and financial statements of the company, that also he is supposed to include in case of government companies. In case of government companies, as per subsection 5, he should submit copy of report to CAG, that is Controller and Auditor of General of India. And if CAG has asked him to given him some directions, then he should include that also, and its impact on accounts and financial statement also he should state in his report as per subsection 5. Subsection 6 of section 143, CAG shall within 60 days from the date of receipt of audit report under subsection 5. As per subsection 5, CAG will get copy of audit report in case of government companies. After getting reports within 60 days, CAG will conduct a supplementary audit of financial statements of the company by such person or persons as he may authorize in this behalf, and for the purpose of such audit require information or additional information to be furnished to any person or persons so authorized on such matters by such person or persons and in such form as CAG may direct. So as per subsection 6, after receiving the audit report within 60 days, CAG has right to conduct supplementary audit. For that purpose, CAG will appoint a person for conducting supplementary audit, and it will require that additional information to be provided by company officers and employees to that auditor, and CAG will comment or supplement such audit report, provided that any comments given by CAG or supplement to the audit report shall be sent by company to every person entitled to copies of audited financial statements under subsection 1 of section 136 and also be placed before annual general meeting of the company at the same time and in the same manner as the audit report. So this supplementary audit, if asked by CAG as per subsection 6, then along with audit report, comments of CAG, is to be given to every member, that is shareholder, who is entitled to get audit report as well as financial statements, and it is to be placed, that is comments of CAG to be placed before annual general meeting. Subsection 7, this is also for government audit. CAG, if considers necessary, by order cause test audit to be conducted of the accounts of such companies. So CAG will order test audit in case of government company if it considers it necessary as per subsection 7. Subsection 8 of section 143 is for branch auditor. The branch accounts, if the company is having branch office, can be audited by company auditor, or it can be audited by some other person also, some other auditor also. And if the branch is situated in a country outside India, the accounts of branch audit shall be audited either by company auditor or by an accountant or by any other person duly qualified to act as an auditor of accounts of branch office in accordance with law of that country, and duties and powers of company auditor with reference to audit of branch and branch auditor, if any, shall be such as prescribed in Rule 12 of Chapter 10 under the Act. So duties and powers of branch auditor we'll see afterwards, which is same which is given in Rule 12. Subsection 9 of section 143, every auditor shall comply with auditing standards. Subsection 10, the central government may prescribe the standards of auditing and any addendum thereto, addendum that is additions, as recommended by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, constituted under section 3 of Chartered Accountants Act 1949, in consultation with and after examination of recommendations made by National Financial Reporting Authority. So auditing standards or any addendum thereto will be prescribed by central government, which are recommended by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Institute of Chartered Accountants of India will recommend it. It will constitute these, it will make these accounting standards in consultation with and after examination of recommendations made by National Financial Reporting Authority. Provided that until any auditing standard are notified, any standard or standards of auditing specified by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India shall be deemed to be auditing standards. Subsection 11. The central government may, in consultation with National Financial Reporting Authority, by general or special order, direct in respect of such class or description of companies as may be specified in the order, that the auditor's report shall also include a statement on such matters as may be specified therein. So as per subsection 11, central government, after consulting with National Financial Reporting Authority, will either by special order or general order, that means it will give special order or general order, to class or description of companies which will be specified in that order itself, that the auditor's report shall include statement on the matters, and these matters also will be specified in the order. Subsection 12 of section 143, this subsection 12 is very important. Notwithstanding anything contained in this section, if an auditor of a company in the course of the performance of his duties as auditor has reason to believe that offense of fraud involving such amount or amounts as prescribed in Rule 13 of Chapter 10 under the Act is being or has been committed in the company by officers or employees, the auditor shall report the matter to the central government within such time and in such manner as prescribed in Rule 13 of Chapter 10 under the Act. If the auditor has reason to believe that fraud has been committed by officers or employees of the company, then it is the duty of the auditor to report the fraud to the central government within the time limit given in Rule 13. So, as per Rule 13, if the amount of fraud is 1 crore or above 1 crore, then the fraud is to be reported to central government. It is to be reported immediately but not later than 60 days, which is given in Rule 13. But if the fraud is of lesser amount, that is lesser than 1 crore, then it is to be reported either to audit committee or board. Provided that in case of fraud involving lesser than the specified amount, that is lesser than 1 crore, the auditor shall report the matter to the audit committee constituted under section 177 or to the board. That means if audit committee is not required to be constituted, then auditor is supposed to report it to the board of directors. In other cases, within such time and in such manner as prescribed in Rule 13 of Chapter 10 under the Act. So, within what time period it is the duty of the auditor to report the fraud to audit committee or board is given in Rule 13. So, as per this, for getting or seeking the report the fraud to audit committee or board if it is of lesser than 1 crore within 45 days, and within for immediately but within 45 days, but once he gets the reply within 15 days of getting the reply, the auditor is supposed to intimate it, report it to central governments within 15 days. So 45 plus 15 total is 60 days. Provided further that the companies whose auditors have reported frauds under this subsection to audit committee or board but not reported to the central government shall disclose the details about such fraud in board's report in such manner as prescribed in Rule 13 of Chapter 10. If the auditor has reported about fraud to audit committee or board but he has not reported it to central government, then total details about the fraud should be mentioned, disclosed in the report of board of directors. Subsection 13. No duty to which an auditor of a company may be subject to shall be regarded as having been contravened by reason of his reporting the matter referred to in subsection 12 if it is done in good faith. If auditor has reported the fraud as per subsection 12 in good faith, then you cannot consider it as he has contravened the provisions of the section. Subsection 14. The provisions of this section shall mutatis mutandis apply, same as it is same. Mutatis mutandis meaning is as it is or same. To cost accountant in practice conducting cost audit under section 148 or company secretary in practice conducting secretarial audit under section 204. So subsection 14 of section 143 talks about applicability of this section to cost audit as well as secretarial audit. It is same rules are applicable, that is powers and duties of financial auditor, cost auditor and secretarial auditor are same. Subsection 15. If any auditor, cost accountant or company secretary in practice do not comply with the provisions of subsection 12, he shall be punishable with fine which shall not be less than 1 lakh rupees but which may extend to 25 lakh rupees. So in all there are 15 subsections in section 143, 15 subsections in section 143. This in bracket these subsections are given. If you are quoting these, you should know it in the same order, you should quote in the same order if you get a question on power and duties of auditor. Otherwise do not write the numbers, just put bullets, because if you miss the order then you will lose marks. So 15 subsections of section 143, just now we have seen powers and duties of auditor. Other matters to be included in auditor's report. The auditor's report shall also include their views and comments on the following matters: whether the company has disclosed the impact, if any, of pending litigations on its financial position in its financial statements. Pending litigations is pending cases in the court. If there are pending cases in the court, what is its financial impact on financial position and whether that has been disclosed or not? That the auditor will find out. He will report on that. Whether the company has made provisions as required under any law or accounting standard for material foreseeable losses, if any, on long-term contracts including derivative contracts. If in case of any long-term contract or derivative contract there are foreseeable losses which are material, whether company has made provision, he is supposed to comment on that. Whether there has been any delay in transferring amounts required to be transferred to the Investor Education and Protection Fund by the company. If there is delay in transferring, he is supposed to comment on that. He should give the reasons why there is delay in transferring the amount. Duties and power of company's auditor with reference to the audit of the branch and branch auditor. For the purpose of subsection 8 of section 143, section 143 subsection 8 is for branch audit. The duties and powers of company's auditor with reference to audit of the branch and branch auditor, if any, shall be contained in subsection 1 to 4 of section 143. So to the branch auditor, subsection 1 to 4 of section 143 is applicable. Subsection 1 is auditor is having access to the books of accounts, records, documents. He can inquire on certain matters. He can ask information and explanation. Subsection 2 is making report. Subsection 3, report shall state various matters and these contents of the reports. And subsection 4 is, if as per subsection 3, if any matter is negative or auditor has any raised any qualification, then reason is to be given. The branch auditor shall submit his report to the company's auditor. The provisions of subsection 12 of section 143 read with rule 12 here under regarding reporting of fraud by auditor shall also extend to such branch auditor to the extent it relates to concerned branch. Subsection 12, reporting of fraud. If fraud is made by employees or officers of the company and auditor has found out the fraud, then it is his duty to report the fraud either to central government or audit committee or to the board of directors depending upon amount of fraud involved. Same is applicable to branch auditor also. Reporting of fraud by auditor. For the purpose of subsection 12 of section 143, in case the auditor has sufficient reason to believe that an offense involving fraud is being or has been committed against the company by officer or employee of the company, he shall report the matter to central government immediately but not later than 60 days of his knowledge and after following the procedure indicated herein below. Auditor shall forward his report to the board or the audit committee as the case may be immediately after he comes to knowledge of the fraud, seeking their reply or observation within 45 days. On receipt of such reply or observation, the auditor shall forward his report and the reply or observation of the board or audit committee along with his comments on such reply or observation of the board or the audit committee to the central government within 15 days on receipt of such reply or observations. In case the auditor fails to get any reply or observation from the board or audit committee within the stipulated period of 45 days, he shall forward his report to the central government along with note containing the details of his report that was earlier forwarded to the board or the audit committee for which he failed to receive any reply or observation within the stipulated time. So auditor is supposed to report the fraud committed by officers or employees to central government within 60 days. He shall forward this report to board or audit committee and he will ask them to give their reply within 45 days. After getting their reply along with his original report which he made to board or audit committee, he will send to central government within 15 days. But if he does not get any reply from board or audit committee, he will forward his report as well to the central government, indicating that he has not received reply from the board or audit committee within the stipulated time, that is within 60 days. The report shall be sent. Now auditor is supposed to send the report to the government. To the government to whom? Means whom? To Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs in a sealed cover by registered post with acknowledgement due or by speed post followed by an email in confirmation of the same. He should send email also in confirming that he has sent the report through post. The report shall be on the letterhead of the auditor containing postal address, email address, contact number, and be signed by auditor with his seal and shall indicate his membership number. The report shall be in the form of a statement as specified in Form ADT 4. Reporting of fraud to the central government by auditor form is ADT 4. The provision of this rule shall also mutatis mutandis apply to cost auditor and secretarial auditor during the performance of his duties under section 148 and section 204 respectively. In this particular video, we have seen provisions of section 143 of Companies Act, that is powers and duties of auditor. Thank you.